What's up, everybody? It's Nick here. Today we're going to be starting the process of carb swapping this 95 Chevy with the 350 engine. So my plan for today is to get all of the old stuff off, like the throttle body, the air box, the ignition coil, and the distributor way back there. And you get all these sensors, like there's a knock sensor way down there, another knock sensor over here, this EGR thing, map sensor, throttle position, idle air control. So yeah, let's get into it. So first things first, let's get this air box out of the way. And we can set these off to the side, so we'll clean it up better later. Disconnect this air tube. Pull that off. Pull this off. And pull this off. Let's set this off to the side. And now we can go over here and remove this bolt to get this housing off. Now with a 3/8 ratchet and extension and a 10mm socket, we can loosen this bolt that holds this clamp onto this here housing. Now we can get this metal clamp out of the way, get this box out of here, set this also in here. And now with a 5/16 socket with a 1/4 inch ratchet, let's just disconnect the negative terminal of the battery because we'll be doing some electrical stuff. Now we can come up here, take off these fuel injector wiring harnesses, disconnect these vacuum lines, remove this little gasket here, take this fuel injector wiring out of the slot in the throttle body and set it off to the side. We'll disconnect the throttle position sensor, disconnect the idle air control valve, disconnect one more vacuum line from the map sensor, and now this is completely disconnected besides our throttle cable, which for this all we have to do, pull this out, that unlocks it, set this off to the side, and this we just have to pull up, I believe. Yep, just like that. Now the only thing left holding this throttle body down is the bolts and these two fuel lines in the back. Also make sure do not lose this little C-clip. This is very important for the throttle cable, which we'll obviously need for the carburetor. Now with a 1/2 inch socket, we can come up here, loosen up this top bolt on the throttle body. It's pretty tight actually. Just break it free, loosen it the rest of the way. With a 1/2 inch wrench, we can come up here, break these free, loosen this one by hand. Make sure you get all these little washers out too, but those will come out with the throttle body. Same with this one, break it free, loosen it up, take this out, grab the little washers and stuff. All right, and now we can move on to disconnecting the fuel lines. All right, now with those broken free, just unthread it by hand. There's probably gonna be some residual fuel left. Yep, just like that, there's fuel leaking out. So you wanna go grab a rag just to clean that up. Then we can come over to the other side and do the same thing with the return line. That one's actually really loose already. And now, let's just double check everything, make sure our throttle body is completely disconnected. We can take it and slowly lift it up. This is our stock GM throttle body. Then here I have a throttle body spacer. Now we have a spot for our carburetor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some more shop rags. I'm going to drape them over this so that way nothing falls in our time when we're disconnecting everything. So next up, let's get rid of this vacuum line to our EGR. Let's disconnect our map sensor. Then we can come down here and loosen this bolt. All right, so with that bolt removed, we can take our entire map sensor assembly out because the vacuum line is disconnected. Come over here, disconnect this EGR solenoid. We can get this, set that in here as well. Let's grab ourselves a vacuum plug. Let's come over here to the EGR, plug off our EGR valve. So now what we can do is we can come over here, disconnect the wiring to our ignition module, disconnect the center wire here. Now we can grab something to start labeling all our spark plugs. Let's start with labeling all of our spark plug wires. This will just make it easier for reassembly. So for that, I'm just gonna wrap some duct tape around it. You know, that'll do the trick just fine. You don't have to get really fancy with it, as long as you know what it is. But as we go, we can disconnect them. So now I'm just gonna cut these zip ties. So I zip tied them up so that way they weren't rubbing the exhaust manifold. So I'm gonna get rid of all those so I can stash them off to the side here so I have more room to work in here. So now with a 1/2 inch socket, we're gonna go in here and loosen up the bolt that holds down our ignition coil. So I'm like 99% sure with an HEI distributor, you do not need one of these. I think they're mounted on the top. All right, let's lift this up and out. And there we go, there's our ignition coil. We could set that in here as well. So for this step, we're gonna get the engine to top dead center so we can take that distributor out and have it be timed pretty accurately. So first, you wanna disconnect your first spark plug wire. You're gonna take that spark plug out. And then because we disconnected the fuel lines, you're gonna come over to your fuse box and take out the fuel pump relay, so that way no power goes to the fuel pump. Then we come over here and reconnect the negative terminal of our battery. So now the reason we're doing this, you gotta take the first spark plug out so you can put your finger over the hole and just have someone bump the starter so that way you can feel when piston 1 is on its compression stroke, because when it reaches the top of its compression stroke, that is top dead center, and you're ready to take your distributor out. Let me get this spark plug out. So now with the first spark plug out, we can put our finger over the hole. So one other thing you can do to ensure that you're at top dead center is take off the distributor cap, because if you are at top dead center, then your rotor should be facing in the direction of cylinder 1. And another way you can tell if your engine is close to top dead center is by looking at your timing marks. Now you can bump the starter quick. A little more. 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 We're pretty close. You can see it. That's almost at cylinder 1. I can feel the pressure coming up when I have my finger on the hole. So just a little more. That right there is probably about as close as you can get with bumping the starter. I feel like if we did one more, we might go too far. This here flat screwdriver, you want to gently slide it into the spark plug hole so you can feel where the piston's at. So I think that's about as good as we're gonna be able to get, just bumping the starter. You can put a 9/16 socket on the crank pulley and do it by hand. So we can take our number 1 spark plug and thread it back. You can grab our spark plug socket, just tighten it down just so it's snug. You don't need to really torque it down, so that's pretty good. So you come in here, there's one 9/16 bolt that holds the distributor down. You want to loosen that, and there's this little bracket you pull off. Then this, it just comes straight up and out. But that's it for me, guys. As you can see, we have all this stuff out. You know, we have our distributor, throttle body, all the map sensors and EGR stuff, ignition coil, air box, another air housing. I do have to note though, if you are planning on carb swapping and you do not have a universal intake, then you're gonna have to also change your intake manifold. Luckily, mine is universal, so I can use the same intake. But that's it for me, guys. Thank you all for watching part 1 of the carburetor swap. I will see you guys next time. Make sure to like and subscribe if you are new. Peace out.